creating wealth, freedom, and security using real estate investing. This is Get Real Wealthy. All right, this is Get Real Wealthy, Episode 1, Season 2. I wanted to share it a different format than what I usually share in. This is going to be an interview format. I wanted to make sure that I was able to teach a little bit more than what I have been doing before. And in this episode, I'm going to talk a little bit about what I would have done differently if I were to build my portfolio again. Now, first you have to get a little bit of background. First property purchased in 2004, 2008, bought multiple properties, 3-4 a year. By the time I got to 2013, the cash flow from the portfolio allowed me to make a decision whether to quit my job or not. I did not leave my job as a public school teacher until 2014. And that was a year of just testing out being able to survive off that income. It worked out really well. And so with the discussion with my wife and having 2 young kids, it was quite a stressful decision, but decided to leave my profession and focus on real estate investing full time, which I have been doing since 2014. One thing I want to say is that I appreciate all the different things that I've done up to this point has helped me to become the real estate investor that I am today. And hindsight is 2020, and all those experiences were useful for me. So I'm just sharing kind of a background of what I think I could have done a little differently. For you, it may be a different experience, and different decisions. I just want you to know how I feel, and hopefully that'll help you to make a better decision for yourself. So one of the 8 things I would have done differently is quit my job sooner. Now, that may not be the same for everybody, and it often depends on your job and how that helps you to qualify for mortgages and all of those things. But I had really built a base of people around me that helped me to be able to build a portfolio. So I probably could have quit my job a year sooner than I did. But I was just a little bit more cautious. Number 2 is I would have done more buy, renovate, refinance, and rent properties earlier on so that I had a larger portfolio of cash flowing properties on a much larger scale. What I ended up doing was experimenting with a number of different strategies like flipping, like rent to owns or lease to owns, and wholesaling. I experimented with a lot of those, which were great for generating income, but they weren't great for generating a long-term wealth type of mindset where I'm more at now. So probably going along those lines, number 3 would be I would have flipped less of those properties. And I guess the way that I was flipping properties was different than how other people may have done it. So I always flipped properties that I would have held anyways. So I would buy a property, add a suite to it, or clean it up. My backup plan was having cash flow on a rental if I couldn't flip it. But we did successfully flip about a dozen properties in 2014, 2015. So it was successful, but I would have rather held on to all those properties now. Number 4, I would have had my partners qualify for more of the properties sooner. When I worked with partners, they often brought the funds to the property, but I would qualify. And I felt that this hampered my growth later on, and I would have probably done it differently and had more of my partners qualify on those properties. That's just a learning experience from doing it. The 5th thing that I would say that I would have not done is I would not have done the rent-to-owns or wholesaling. Instead, I would have focused on cash flowing properties and holding on to those properties. Although they were useful and they helped me to grow and perhaps not take on partners by using the flips and the rent to owns, I just felt that, it was something that I thought was important at the time that really wasn't. I did have enough cash flow from my portfolio to be able to just continue to do what I was doing. The next thing I would have done is I would have hired staff sooner and outsourced property management sooner. Those are definitely aspects of the business that there are things that I really don't like doing, and I did them for longer than I really should have. And that would have been something that would have helped me out tremendously. Now, I am not afraid to hire out. I am not afraid to outsource different aspects of my business, especially the parts that I really don't like doing. It has allowed me to free up time and energy to focus on the things that I do really well, which are finding amazing opportunities, off-market stuff, working with people, developing relationships, all of those things that I really enjoy doing, I can focus more on because I've hired out the things that I am not good at and things that I don't like to do. And so I would have done that much sooner. The next thing I would have done is I would have started building an apartment building portfolio sooner. I started really in 2015, buying a 6-unit building, but it really was as I grew and bought more buildings and bought larger buildings that I realized that I thought that the properties that I was buying didn't cash flow, and they didn't cash flow as well as some of the duplexes and triplexes and fourplexes that I owned. But the difference with the apartment buildings is that I could refinance those properties and then reinvest those the refinanced amount into other buildings. And it was the power of the refinance, and sometimes multiple times on the same building, where I really saw the cash influx that happens from apartment buildings. It's not the same as getting cash flow every month, but it is something that's quite important when you're considering apartment building investing. So I would have done that a lot sooner. The other thing that I would have done differently or sooner perhaps is I would have gone bigger earlier. This year we closed on 7 apartment buildings, 202 units, and truthfully, I probably could have done a similar deal like that a few years ago. And it was more of a mindset thing and not associating with the right people at the right time. And I think that because I've done that, I have been able to get into that space where I am more confident about closing on those buildings. And really, I could have done that much sooner than I did. So those are the 8 things that I would have done differently if I were to go back and do things again. I hope that gave you a little bit of direction and hopes that will help you. So let's just review. Number 1, I would have quit my job sooner. Number 2, I would have done more buy, renovate, refinance, and rent properties, especially those cash flowing properties, and I would have done it on a larger scale than I did. Number 3, I would have had my partners qualify for more properties sooner. So they would have gone on the financing for those properties. Okay. Number 4, I would not have flipped the properties that I did. I would have flipped them probably to myself and held on to them. Those were great for cash influx, but overall I should have just held on to them. Number 5, I would not have done rent-to-owns or wholesaling on properties. I would have focused my time more on cash flowing assets, and I would have taken on more partners on those type of assets. Number 6, I would have hired staff sooner, and I would have outsourced tasks that I did not want to do sooner. Number 7, I would have started building an apartment building portfolio sooner, probably in year 2. And the last one, I would have gone bigger earlier. Now, I hope those tips help you, and I hope you like this nice new format. Let me know, leave me a comment, reach out to me on social media. You can subscribe to getrealwealthy.com, and I will see you on the next episode. Make sure to check out educationrei.ca. Until next time, I'm Quentin D'Souza. Get out there and take action. The views and opinions expressed in this podcast are provided for information purposes only and should not be construed as an offer to buy or sell any securities or to make or consider any investment or course of action. For more information, go to educationrei.ca.